years. The next thing that we're going to see happen prophetically is what's called the tribulation. And the tribulation is a period where there are going to be a lot of things happening upon this earth that are catastrophic. There are going to be famines, there are going to be pestilences, there's going to be warfare, like an extreme amount of warfare. A lot of people are going to be starving to death, dying of disease. A lot of horrible things are going to be happening. Well, out of all this warfare and cataclysm that's going to be taking place during the tribulation, not supernatural cataclysm, not God raining fire and brimstone, but rather natural disasters, warfare, famine caused by human beings, there's going to be a man that's going to emerge and become a dictator of the entire world known as the Antichrist. This isn't a fairy tale. This is really going to happen, and in fact, we can already see the signs that it's beginning to happen. The Bible tells us that someday there will be a one world government. Right now, we have all these different governments, right? We got the United States, we've got Russia, we've got China. They're all separate sovereign nations. You probably heard the term sovereign. All these separate nations. Well, one day the Bible says all of those nations will unite together and form a one world government. And then, once they form that one world government, they will hand all the power to one person that will be the head of that government. And that person is known in the Bible as the Antichrist. Who's ever heard of the Antichrist before? Yeah, everybody's heard that term, right? You know, the Antichrist is a biblical term. You know, you'll often hear the Bible talk about the beast or the beast from the sea or the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, and they'll talk about the man of sin, the son of perdition. But the Bible also uses the term Antichrist. And I like to use the term Antichrist. It's a term that people understand, and it's a biblical term. I want to show you where the Bible mentions the term Antichrist, because the Bible tells us there is a person coming someday that's called the Antichrist. Before Jesus Christ comes back, there will be a decoy, a fake Christ. Do you see what I mean? The Antichrist is a guy who comes claiming to be the second coming of Christ, but he's an imposter. But since Christians now are being taught to expect Jesus to come back at any moment, it's perfect, because guess who's really showing up? The Antichrist. Why does the Bible call it Antichrist? Because there's a man coming called the Antichrist, singular, who's going to say that he's Jesus Christ. And when that Antichrist shows up in the tribulation and says, I'm Jesus Christ, they're going to accept him as their Messiah. A lot of people will teach, oh, when Jesus Christ comes in the clouds, the Jews will finally realize that he was their Messiah and they'll accept him. No, they'll accept the Antichrist. That's what the Bible says. When Jesus said, I've come in my Father's name and you receive me not, another will come in his own name, him you will receive. I think Satan's plan with the pre-tribulation rapture is to get everybody to have this mentality that Jesus Christ is coming at any moment. We're expecting the second coming of Christ at any moment. He could come today. He's coming today. But really, the person who's coming is the Antichrist. And the Antichrist, when he comes, he will be the head of a one-world government and a one-world religion where he basically claims to be the Messiah. It says in verse 18 of 1 John 2, Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come. Now, is that singular or plural? So they've heard that Antichrist singular shall come. Even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. So there's one Antichrist coming, is there not? But aren't there many Antichrists even right now? That's what the verse says. Who are these Antichrists? Who is a liar, but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. In order to believe that Jesus is not the Christ, you have to believe that there is a Christ and that it's not Jesus. The word Christ means Messiah. The Bible says in John chapter 1, we found the Messiah, which is to say, being interpreted, the Christ. So the Bible defines the word Christ as Messiah. The two are interchangeable. So let me ask you this. Can you think of a religion out there that says there's a Messiah coming, but it's not Jesus? Jesus wasn't him. The Jewish religion teaches there's a Messiah, all right, but it wasn't Jesus. They're still waiting for the Messiah. They say Jesus was not the Messiah. They're still waiting for the Messiah. The Bible says that they will basically receive the Antichrist as their Messiah. Evangelical Christianity that believes that Jesus can come back at any moment, those that are not saved, those who don't really believe the truth, you know, many of them will be deceived and think, this is the second coming of Jesus Christ. The Muslims today, did you know that they are waiting for a great prophet and a great Messiah to come that's actually greater than Muhammad? President Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, who's ever heard of him before? President Ahmadinejad, he spoke to the United Nations General Assembly a year or two ago, and when he did, he gave a brief synopsis of Islam.
The essence of the message of prophets is one and the same. Every messenger has endorsed the messenger before him and given glad tidings about the next prophet to come, who presented a more complete version of the religion in accordance with man's capacity at the time. This trend continued until the last messenger of God, who presented the perfection of an all-inclusive religion. Nimrod countered Hazrat Abraham. Pharaoh countered Hazrat Moses. And the greedy countered Hazrat Jesus Christ and Hazrat Muhammad, may peace be upon all our prophets.
And he said that Islam believes that, you know, Abraham was a great prophet, Moses was a great prophet, and then there was Jesus, and then there was Muhammad, and the Muslims nodding her head, so I must be getting this right. And basically what Ahmadinejad said was that each of those men brought more truth than the one who came before, as man was ready for it. They brought more illumination and more details and more truth, okay? He said in the future another prophet will come that will even be greater than Muhammad and will bring the next level of illumination. So Islam is looking for a messianic figure to come. And so they are waiting for the Imam Mahdi.
O God, hasten the arrival of Imam al-Mahdi and grant him good health and victory, and make us his followers and those who attest to his rightfulness.
The Buddhists are looking for, you know, the fifth Buddha to come, or, you know, those that are in Tibet that follow the Dalai Lama. They believe that the Dalai Lama keeps being reincarnated into another person, that spirit of the Dalai Lama. They will believe that the Antichrist is the new embodiment of the Dalai Lama. The Muslims will look at him as the Imam Mahdi. The Christians will look at him as the second coming of Christ. The Jews will look at him as the Messiah. You know, all of these major religions will all rally around it, and people will say, isn't this great how we're all uniting finally? We're putting aside our differences. And this man is so wonderful, and they will worship this man. This imposter, this Antichrist is going to come. The world government will put him into power, give him all the power, and they will also declare him to be God. They'll declare him to be the second coming of Christ. He will basically be killed, the Bible says. He'll receive a deadly wound to his head, and his deadly wound will be healed, and he will come back to life. And then he's going to basically be proclaimed as the second coming of Jesus Christ. He's going to be proclaimed as God in the flesh. And all the nations of the world, all the peoples of the world are going to worship this guy. Basically, every religion's going to accept him as their Messiah. But the Bible says that those that are saved will not be deceived by him, but that the rest of the world will worship him and believe, because he's going to perform miracles, the Bible says, and he's going to do all these signs and wonders, and he's going to bring in this world government. Sometimes you'll try to warn people about a one world government. You'll try to warn them about some of the trends that we see happening of going to a cashless society.
There are so many Christians who, when you talk to Christians about a one world government, or when you talk to them about a cashless society and all these different checkpoints that are being set up and the police state, they call you a conspiracy theorist. And I'm sure you've been called a conspiracy theorist through the years. But can someone really be a Bible-believing Christian and deny that there's going to be a one world government someday?
I don't think you can read the Bible without seeing the fact that it's always been Satan's plan to rule the world like Pinky and the Brain, and he wants a one-world government. He wants to be God.
When this man is ruling the entire world, basically he will command that everyone receive what's called the mark of the beast. Who's ever heard of the mark of the beast? And the mark of the beast is going to be something, the Bible says, in your right hand or in your forehead, and that no one will be able to buy or sell without having this mark. Now, people might have read this a few hundred years ago and said, how can you do that? How can you make people not be able to buy or sell unless they have this mark. Can't we just pull out cash? Think about the way the technology is. This money that I hold in my hand, this Federal Reserve note, it's a piece of paper. It's worthless. It does not have any intrinsic value.
When you see a cashless society starting to develop, more and more we're getting away from using cash.
There will be a time when physical money is just going to cease to exist.
So is paper money a relic of a bygone era?
95% of the transactions in America or more now have nothing to do with physical pieces of paper or coins.
Have you ever wondered if one day cold, hard cash will simply cease to exist? It's a reality that some say that we should accept. Greenbacks and coins have become an inconvenience.
The principle is that we have to move this economy from a cash-based economy to a cashless economy. This involves the banks, it involves the telecoms companies, it involves providers of ATMs and POSs, it involves a cultural change.
Just what do you call money these days? Is it a handful of coins and notes, or are cards taking over? And are some forms of money coming to the end of their lives, like the check?
Suppose every store in your town said, hey, we're not taking cash anymore. Well, suppose they said, hey, we're not even going to take checks or credit cards because there's too much fraud, too many stolen credit cards, too many bounce checks. It has to be electronic transaction.
Because let's face it, the paper money's not really worth anything anyway. It's a piece of paper. Might as well be monopoly money. It's not gold, it's not silver, it has no intrinsic value. So first, they've gotten us used to using pieces of paper that are worthless as money. Today, I can exchange that piece of paper for goods and services. But if somebody said tomorrow, that money's not worth anything, it wouldn't be worth anything. Because you remember the Confederate States of America? Remember the Confederate money? People saved up Confederate money in the mattress. Guess what? It wasn't worth anything. So, well, they could do that to you too and just say, well, your paper money's no good. Now it's all just in your account. It's all tied in with your Facebook and your YouTube channel and your Gmail. And it's great because there's no identity theft. You don't have to worry about leaving your wallet at home. You don't have to worry about your credit card being stolen. It's all just completely cashless. We can control the drugs because there won't be any way to have a cash transaction. It's to prevent crime.
It's sci-fi technology that's about to enter the checkout lane, all in the name of
Speed and convenience.
you'll be able to buy anything from bread to beer if you agree to give the store your ultimate identity.
It scares the heck out of me.
Once you have your groceries scanned, now what do? Touch your index finger to the image reader, and you've paid in about 3 seconds, all with the touch of your fingertip.
It's called biometrics, an automated way to recognize you based on your unique biological characteristics.
Do not be sold on this because of a convenience.
You know, today it's a fingerprint, tomorrow a microchip. Maybe that ushers in the mark of the beast.
Donnie Attaway quit his management job at Quick Trip when the convenience store chain told him he had to swipe his finger to clock in and clock out.
And although it may be optional today, you know, who knows about tomorrow.
Experts say biometrics are about to pervade every aspect of our economy and daily lives.
And you put your finger in there, and my name comes up, and she's got all my information.
And it's that quick?
It's very quick.
Love it?
Love it.
People across the world already use biometrics. The U.S. government, the airlines, gas stations, even Walt Disney World uses technology that can read guests' blood veins in lieu of carrying day passes.
This one world government is going to have so much power that it's going to be able to dictate that no person on this earth will be able to buy or sell without having the mark of the beast. Now, it's interesting. The King James Bible very clearly says that the mark of the beast, this mark that will be required for you to buy or sell, will be located in their right hand or in their forehead. This could be some kind of an implantable chip, where in order to buy or sell, you're just going to need to scan this chip. What's going to happen one day is that they will say, this paper money, that $100 in your pocket, it's worthless. You must scan to pay. It's all electronic now. Now you go to the grocery store, you ring up your groceries, and then just... And if you don't have a hand, no problem, because we'll put it in your head, because everybody has a head. You know what I mean? And you'll just, check out at the checkout. And so it'll just, all the money will just be electronic format. And it's already going that way. You know, cell phones are starting to have a scanner. So it could be basically, let's say there's an exchange of goods and services between two people, right? Okay, that's going to be $10.50. Go ahead and give me your right hand so I can just scan it with my smartphone. Okay, now I just took the money from his account. Oh, you just gave my son a piano lesson. Let me get you paid. Think about it now. The smartphone can be used to scan the mark of the beast, okay? And you can't buy or sell without it.
In medical news tonight, a chip the size of a grain of rice could save your life.
The year is 2017. You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
I think it is possible to free us completely of our wallets and keys using biometric technology, if that's what people want in 10 years' time.
The challenge is to safeguard our privacy in a brave new world.
New microchip technology now makes it possible for the emergency room staff to find out about your medical history at the touch of a computer key.
So many emergency physicians have to operate blind. We have to make medical decisions not knowing what medicines you take or what allergies you have.
Harvard Dr. John Halopka says this radio frequency identification chip may solve that problem. He had it implanted in his right upper arm. A scanner reads an identification number. Those 16 digits are then entered into a secure website where his medical history is stored. EMT worker Brian Orsatti says the chip could help emergency workers.
One of the big things is if you ever have some type of trauma patient where they come in and they're unable to give you their information and or their medical history.
Dr. Halopka says the benefits are clear.
I'm a rock climber, and I believe that if I fall off a cliff and you find me unconscious, the comfort of being able to scan me and figure out who I am outweighs my concern for privacy.
The chip is encased in unbreakable glass and is about the size of a grain of rice. The procedure is done with anesthesia and is relatively pain-free.
It's like putting a knitting needle under your skin.
But in this case, he says getting something under your skin is a good thing.
It starts like this. Here's his cat. 5 years later, we found out she's back. Then somebody says, well, you know, if it's good enough for a cat, Suki, I've got mom and dad at home, and dad kind of wanders off sometimes, and maybe we could put in a microchip with his medical records in case something ever happens. Sounds good. And then somebody says, well, if it's good enough for my cat, good enough for grandma and grandpa, what about my baby? No more Amber Alerts. Never having to worry about that fear of an abducted child. And then we say, well, you know what? Maybe we should have them. And on that chip, we're going to have everything. Credit cards, driver's license. Think about it, Metro card.
I'm thinking.
No more wallets. Think about this. You don't carry keys anymore. So the question I want everybody at home to ask is that a good idea? Because that's where we're going next.
It's too sci-fi for me, I'm telling you that.
It's here.
Much. I know it's here with pets and in a limited basis, but for humans.
But your child.
Yeah, your child. I mean, come on.
People in the past might have wondered, how could this be implemented? How do you stop people from buying or selling if they don't have a mark? But we see now the technology developing that would make it very easy for no one to be able to buy or sell without having this mark. And guess what? Most people only have like 7 days of food in their house or 10 days of food in their house. So if you can't buy or sell, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And basically the Bible says there's also going to be a law that says if you won't worship the Antichrist, you'll be killed. Okay, this guy's great. He's doing a lot of great things. He's bringing people together. Only one catch: get on board or be put to death. When you hear about that, when you look at that, you probably say, well, in that case, I mean, I guess we're all going to die, that are believers, those that believe on Christ. I guess we're all going to be beheaded. And the Bible talks about us being beheaded. We're all going to be beheaded, but here's the thing. If this were allowed to continue, yeah, you're right, all believers would be killed. Because think about it. Look at the technology. Look at the surveillance cameras that are going up everywhere. The satellites. Now the police are using drones with cameras to fly around and spy on you. Have you seen that? Surveillance drones. You have them now they're installing microphones at street corners where they can listen in to what you're saying. And it's like the dystopic novel 1984. That's the way our country is going, to where it's a total surveillance society. Used to be you just got on an airplane. Now you got to be molested by the TSA. Now you got to go through a naked body scanner. Now you got to be scanned. You got to be patted down. You've got to have ID with you at all times. And police are constantly, where's your ID? There are your papers. Your papers are not in order. And that's the country that we're living in now. And so what I'm saying is that this is going to continue to the point where it's going to be really hard to escape this prison planet. But let me say this, we will not all be killed. Many will be killed, don't get me wrong. Many Christians will be beheaded and killed for the cause of Christ. But I'll say this, we will not all be killed because this will be cut short. And the Bible says, except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, they shall be shortened. And the Bible says that in the midst of this, Jesus Christ will return. Remember we talked earlier about the second coming of Christ. He will return just when they think they've defeated Christianity, they've got their global government, they've got their one world government with Satan at its head. Jesus Christ comes in the clouds, and that's when the rapture takes place. And that's when he begins to pour out his wrath on this earth. And you can read about it in Revelation. He's going to be turning water into blood. He's going to be scorching the trees and grass. He's going to be sending these locusts from hell that are going to be stinging people with tails like scorpions. You know, if you've read the book of Revelation, if you haven't read it, I would strongly recommend it. And don't read the NIV, you know, read the King James Version, okay? If you're going to take the time to read it, why don't you read the real thing, okay? Accept no imitation.